What's going on, everybody? It's BC9 here, and welcome back, everybody, to Odyssey from Her Interactive. Now, of course, it did actually save right where we were before. So we're going to go ahead and do this again. Hey. Beautiful game with beautiful music, I gotta say. They did a very good job with this island. Designing it and everything. But see, this is what I needed. I needed a break from games with combat. Obviously I can't get in here. So the question next is, what do we do? Crossed over the fixed rotation bridge this morning, but we found out we still couldn't get over the main part of the Wretched Minor. There was another bridge we needed to cross, and it was broken too. Whee! I just saw that at the bottom. This bit of Wretched Minor has a couple shacks on it, with nothing inside but some tables and barrels. There's an old well around back covered by an army grate. We can rotate this bridge from side to side. He thinks it might lead to the tower. We have a sump pump. Says we might empty the lagoon later and see, but she can tell high tide will just fill it up again, so we'll have to be careful. I haven't seen any boats or lights out to sea. So no one ever comes too close, there's nothing to worry about. I was thinking about how stars follow circular paths in the sky. If the stars were doing the moving, they would all have to go different speeds. Interesting how this is about the stars. This sounds magical, and I wondered how Aristotle would explain it if the Earth were stationary at the center of the universe. Isn't it much simpler for one thing to spin instead of thousands of stars to move the other direction? That's a good point. Alright. This is talking about how water on the Earth moves in straight lines and the ether moves in circles. Yeah. So this is polar drift. It's talking about how basically the sun moves slightly to the right every single year, and that's because the polar shift is happening. Because of this, every night the stars rising at the eastern horizon are progressively different. Like if a star rises immediately after sunset today, then tomorrow when it sets, it'll already have risen and be slightly above the horizon a few weeks later. It'll appear even higher. Yeah, that's polar drift. That's cool. We would see the same stars every single night, but there's a 4-minute difference. Yeah. That's another thing. If the Earth was at the center of the universe, we'd see the same stars every single day. This girl built a lot of models. I can see it over on the left. She made it so that the Earth is a celestial sphere with the zodiac constellations. So she made it so that the Earth spins instead of the stars. Which is the way it should be, because that's the way it is. Okay. Then as the Earth orbited the Sun, the laser point moved south, crossed the equator, and when the Earth was on the opposite side of the Sun, tipped most away. But laser hits the lowest latitude in the southern hemisphere. So basically she's saying that there is a polar tilt, because we are at a tilt. It's a long journal. So weirdly enough, the United States is... Oh, that's why it's called the summer solstice. Never mind. Excuse me. Alright, so next the sun reached its lowest point on the winter solstice, directly over the tropical. So I believe she's telling me that the first one I have to do is the top. So we're either doing the summer solstice or the winter solstice. It's not clear as of right now, but I think she wants us to do one of the two. Oh. Oh, interesting. So, if I'm not mistaken, she wants us to reenact the summer solstice. Correct. Summer solstice is pictured. And then this one is what? I forget what this one is. So she wants us to go in between the Y and that other one, which is way over here. There we go. Figured it out. Sorry about that, guys. It just took me a second to realize which one was which. So I knew that I needed to have one of them be the winter solstice and the other one be the summer, but it wasn't obvious which one. So now, so now this puzzles up the next puzzle. Alright, so then let's take a look at the journal. journal. Alright, so now it's talking about how the planets wander in the night sky. This is all extremely true to real science, which is awesome. Obviously it should be, if it's a science game. I guess that each of the 7 planets had to have their own celestial spheres to be able to wander separately. Yep, so now it's talking about the model of the planets. If the moon was a sphere with no bumps, the dark edge would be smooth. But the real moon shadow was jaggy. There was also dark patches in the lit region showing that light wasn't getting there. There were probably valleys or craters, and there were some bright spots in the dark planet. That was probably where the sun hit only the tops of the mountains, but not the bases, because the moon horizon blocked sunlight from hitting the bases of those mountains. This was like when Dad showed me how when the mountain tops of the Wretched Islands could be seen before the bases because they were blocked by the Earth's horizon. So it's basically talking about how there's craters and mountains on the moon. Then there's talks about sunspots. Interesting. I proved the moon was bumpy, and now I've shown that the sun changes over time. The sunspots are always on the sun itself, and they look to be imperfections on the sun that appear and then later disappear. Yep. Alright, so there's the geocentric model, which is basically the Earth's and then there's the heliocentric model, which is the one that we go by today. It's talking about seeing Jupiter in the night sky, and how Jupiter has moons, so other planets have moons too. Viewing a planet through a telescope turned into a round disk, but stars still looked like stars and didn't get any bigger. Yeah, so it's just basically talking about how, you know, so, now what does this want me to do? Oh, is this a matching puzzle? Oh, I see. Obviously, that's not right. So wait, which one is it talking about? This? There we go. Okay, so jagged moons, stars, sunspots, moons. Okay. It just took me a second to realize what the hell she was talking about. Okay. Well, now the question is, what the fuck did this do? So this goes out. Whoa. More journals. Great. Apart from Jupiter, Mars is another planet that's clearly visible in the night sky. I looked at Mars through a telescope a few times, but it just turned a slightly reddish dot into a slightly bigger reddish dot. Dad said that might not be true if I had a lot more time to observe it. I said Mars was going through an unusual period. Oh, it's talking about the retrograde motion. That's because we get ahead in Mars's orbit, so it appears to be going backwards when the reality is it's not. It's just... Okay. By adjusting the two speeds of motion along the epicycle and deferent, you could have Mars sometimes reverse and go backwards like the retrograde motion we see in the sky. I paused the arms at the moment Mars was moving backwards in retrograde to show Dad. And he said I was right. So yeah, because Mars has a different orbit than we do in terms of orbital, like, ground, it sometimes gets ahead of us. Jesus, these people had a lot of time in their hands. Finally, it was done, and I played with the speed of both planets, making Earth go around the sun in less time than Mars took, and boy, did I get a shock. The laser beam moved through the zodiac constellation in the correct order like we could see from the Earth, but whenever the Earth caught up with Mars in their orbits and passed by the beam, would temporarily move backwards. I can't even pause it to show Dad later the moment it happens. Which is good. It's not really obvious what's going on, though. Also, what is over here? I'm just curious. Is it just... Oh, wow. There's actually a pathway down here. I didn't even know that. Oh, I can go over here. Oh my god. Another key that I need. There's no way to get across here. So why did I turn on this generator down here? Oh! Again, didn't realize there was a model. Didn't realize that we were going into the unknown here. Got another achievement. Copernican universe. It took me a second to realize what I was saying. Ooh, this looks like a constellation game. Time for one more puzzle, I think, and then I'm good. Alright. high doesn't refill the grotto. I don't know if it's high enough for waves sometimes to swash over. Oh, now it's going to talk about tides, okay. By shifting my position sideways, I saw that the stars closer to me shift more than stars which are farther away, which obviously makes sense. It's like looking at trees, like it says in there. Oh, she got a sunburn. Haha! So that's why that's wrong. That's why this is right. Yes, all planets go through phases. Oh, where I can position Venus on the far side. Well, that's fine. So basically this is telling me... This is basically telling you, okay, so if you move this, you see that the stars are at a closer perspective in terms of... With that being said, I'm going to end the video here once it saves. Okay, saved. So we'll do this puzzle. Well, then again... Yeah. We're going to figure this out another time, but thank you guys so much for watching. We'll continue this game when we come back. This is interesting. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time on Odyssey.